think you ought to know. That men's radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's men's radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. And radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
Okay, that's the aerobics done for the day. I'm going back to bed. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
You're shattered after that. You see,
I'm done, man. That's the thing. Ever since my personal trainer got busy again after lockdown, I can't see her twice a week. I'm screwed.
Oh dear.
Telling you now. Sam Monroe, hi all. San, hope you're okay. Francine Warner, who sent me a wonderful video of Michael, her husband, making bread. Phil, don't have a sleepless night. It looked like the bloody Quatermass experiment. Never seen anything like it in my life. And Facebook user, Christ. Good afternoon, all. Now, do you know what? We've got our first guests. Veronica Cullen going straight up to Edinburgh. Hello, Veronica. I hope everything's all right there. Did you have a little bit of square sausage for breakfast?
Just in case anyone's wondering, sorry, Veronica did play Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hey, she did. You know, we've got our first two guests already in the green room. Phil, I got to congratulate you. What you've done with the digital green room, it looks stunning. It's absolutely stunning. That interior design that you've done is beautiful.
It's all of those years of talking to Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen.
Yes, I know. I wrote to him the other day. I said, Lawrence, mate, we're not of a dissimilar age. Stop wearing leather trousers. It looks ridiculous. I told him. I think there comes a point in life where you stop wearing leather trousers. Basically, because they chaff.
Well, quite.
Should we just introduce our fabulous first guests? It's a huge subject. I'm very honoured that they're here.
I'll say, my goodness me. I mean,
Coco.
First up, Hannah Ingram Moore, who is, as the name would suggest, would you believe, daughter of Captain Sir Tom Moore. I mean, I never got the chance to salute Captain Sir Tom, but I will blooming well salute you, Hannah, instead, in the hope that it makes up for that. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a huge honor that you have taken time out. Thank you very much.
Blooming right.
Thank you.
I should Coco.
Thank you so
much, Hannah. It's I know I speak for Phil, for myself, for all our listeners and viewers, which are all over the world, by the way. This really is global. Your father, I'm sure everybody said this to you. Your father was an inspiration. He epitomized everything that was wonderful about this country and about service. Just an amazing man. Amazing man. And I'm sure you must be tired of hearing it.
Never tired of hearing it. And honestly, he felt so proud. He felt so proud of modern multicultural Britain. He really believed it. And of course, he crossed the boundaries between gender, race, nationality, social status, and age. He connected people around the world. So we'll never be tired as a family of hearing it. And we can only hope that we hold the integrity of his values, of his message, and that we willingly share them with the world. And it's a joy to be here. Thank you.
Big shoes to fill, Hannah, aren't they? Do you feel, because we focus on mental health here, do you feel, I don't know if anyone's ever asked you, a pressure because you think, oh my gosh, I'm Sir Tom's daughter. What do people expect of me?
I think that as a family, when we thought we were just going to raise £1,000, and within a week it was $500,000, and within 3.5 weeks it was 38.9 million. The pressure, of course, the joy, the sheer joy, but the pressure of talking to the world, because within a week we were talking to the world, and it was an extraordinary thing. So the pressure as a family of ensuring that we hold the integrity of the message always, that wherever we go, we're recognized, and that we have to make sure, Benji's 17, George's 13, the four of us, my husband, that we ensure that that message of integrity stays true, and that we ensure we do step into my father's footsteps in the right way, and continue that connection of humanity with the world that my father started.
Well, when I said it's global, this is Elizabeth Green watching now in New York City.
The other thing is that we should point out you are here, of course, not just to celebrate the remarkable life and achievements of your father. We're here to talk about the subject of songs at funerals, would you believe, is actually what we're talking about today. And we're also delighted to welcome James Murray, who's funeral director at Co-op Funeral Care. So James, thank you very much indeed for taking time out as well. James, I'm going to be a right pedant. Would you please turn your device 90 degrees so we can see you in the landscape mode, please?
Indeed. Other way around.
Marvelous.
Hannah, while I've got bloody hell, James, stop it, mate. It's like the end of
What do I do?
2001 here.
Well, the only thing is, apparently, it looks like you've got portrait. You've got rotation.
I have to. Hang on. Let's get 10.
Never mind.
No, Hannah, while I've got you, how did it feel? Because this stuns me. How did it feel? For 1 minute, you're a private family. You think, I know what, Dad. Let's see if we can raise £1,000. You're minding your own business. Within a week, this little tiny gesture has become a global sensation. How did you cope with that?
Thank you for asking, because I think it's something that, of course, people just saw us deal with it, but we'd never dealt with anything like that before in our lives. We had 1.5 million emails in the first 10 days.
Good God.
And and never mind that, there were 225,000 birthday cards that were arriving behind the scenes, and that people from around the world, people from around the world were cutting, drawing, designing, painting, stamping, gluing, sticking, and creating. We received over 500,000 things. And so when the world started to watch, we had satellite vans, drones, that we're just a family, right? Just a family who thought that we would raise £1,000.
Right. You're not the Kardashians. You didn't seek this stuff.
No,
they're raving mad, and they love, every time they blow their nose, they love it. Yes. There.
And we're not like that at all. We're just representative of every other household in the country, right? So what we did when the world started to watch, we looked at each other and said, well, it's up to us to ensure that my father's legacy becomes exactly that. We realized very quickly he'd become a beacon of hope to the world.
Yes.
And we as a family needed to make sure that the world could touch it. And so that's what carried us through, that emotional resilience, that family resilience, that connectivity of generations.
That's a fantastic thing.
And look, we valued him as an old person.
Oh, bless. Just one more thing, and I'm sorry, James, I know you're sitting there and you're you're looking blue and smart, if I may say so. First guest with a tie. First guest with a tie and waistcoat I think we've ever had. Here's the thing. Did it occur to you that we have, in this crazy, not very pleasant world in which we live, Hannah, we have no one to look up to. In the old days, you'd look up to church or to the royal family, I don't know, to MPs. You look at it now and you think, really? Which is why I think what Kate and William are doing is, oddly enough, incredibly timely and important. Did it occur to you suddenly, you've used the phrase beacon of hope, that your father gave us, who were just swimming in this mire, an absolute glimmer of what life could be if people were like him?
Yes, I think what he was able to do, having lived 100 years, was say to everyone, look down the lens of a camera in a way that I could not, or you could not, and say, I have lived for 100 years, and I promise you that however bad this is, it will get better, because it always does. And he was able to say that in a way that a younger person could not. And it's that recognition of how much we should value that aging population, because they have so much to give us. And he was able to become the person we could all look up to. And around the world, remember, they saw him as a very British hero.
Yeah. Totally.
And so he took it on. He recognized what had happened. He did. But it never went to his head, or ours, by the way. Just it's simply that he became this beacon, and we wanted to give him a voice, which we just hoped that we did.
I'm speaking on behalf of Phil here, which I rarely do, but I can tell on behalf of Phil and myself and all our listeners, I can tell you and our viewers, your modesty speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Because Phil and I are so used to dealing with the most awful egomaniacs who once appeared on some crap talent show or whatever, and they think they're the bee's knees and they're idiots. Anyway, look, James, you've been terribly painted.
One of the best ways to honor anyone is often through, or at least to sort of invoke memories, is through the music that they loved. And that's actually the reason why you're both joining us today, is to talk about, in particular, songs that are played. I know it sounds morbid, but people really, we need to think about it. It happens to us all one day.
We do.
At funerals. And James, I understand there's been a bit of a change at the top. Is that right?
There has. My Way by Frank Sinatra was the absolute go-to. I think if I didn't have a week without that being played on a funeral, there was something wrong. And it's now been taken off the top spot.
James,
Hello?
I've got to ask you. Do you ever stand at the back and go, oh, God, not again? I mean, that would be me.
If I do, I don't show it. Put it that way.
I'm never playing poker with you, fella. I'm never playing poker with you.
The art of a good funeral director is a poker face, obviously.
I bet it is.
The chart that we do every year, so the Court Funeral Care do a chart every year. This year, it's been My Way's been knocked off the top spot by "You'll Never Walk Alone" by Jerry and the Pacemakers. Such a brilliant song. Certainly, those if you're a Liverpool fan or a Celtic fan, certainly a song that we always play for them. But what a song with a great message of hope when you actually listen to the words, and of course, made famous once again by the brilliant Captain Sir Tom Moore, to give him his proper title, and Michael Ball as well, who re-recorded it during lockdown, and with all the technical challenges that presented, that came across absolutely fantastic. And we've had that particular version played on funerals with us as well.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether or not you could ever be tempted to maybe sort of do some sort of chart show. You know how they do on these.
Not off, pop pickers. Here's your funeral top 10, all right? Not off. Here's number 10. It's Smack Your Bitch Up by Firestarter.
Yeah, it's when they start playing the Jam going underground, then they've lost all sense of taste. I would say,
not even so you got Ring of that one.
Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. Why not?
Oh my God, you're joking me.
Good gracious me! Some people have got no say. I will say one thing though. There was actually sort of I drew the line when there was one time when I went to a cremation and as the coffin went through the curtains, they played the theme tune of Countdown. I just thought it was very inappropriate. But anyway. So anyhow, we laugh about it now. Anyway, the point is that, of course, songs actually are a superb way of, I suppose, embodying everything that sort of meant something to an individual. So, for example, if you do play My Way by Frank Sinatra, that does say a lot about an individual. Obviously, someone who loved life, lived to the full, probably sort of wasn't necessarily someone who followed rules, and would perhaps sort of make a point of being as individualistic as they're supposed to be. It's that kind of memory that you can invoke, and a song can really paint 1,000 words about an individual.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really can. And music is transformative, and it'll transport you to anywhere in your memory. I can hear a couple of bars of a certain piece of music, and I'm back to when I was 10 years old with my grandfather. And it's like all the emotions. It's, like I said, it only takes just a couple of bars and you're back there. It's transformative.
So what are the other popular tunes?
So
I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I do as well. And it's something that we do, like I say, we do every year, and we look at the trends of funerals as well. And the more traditional pieces of music have actually, there isn't a traditional piece of music in the top 10 this year, which I find a bit of a surprise, actually. But you've got Simply the Best by Tina Turner. We've got The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. We've got This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. I think that's that in itself is such a powerful song. If you haven't seen The Greatest Showman, certainly watch that.
I'll be honest with you. I lasted 10 minutes. I thought, oh my God. And I switched off. I think I watched the Jason Statham movie. I couldn't bear it.
But the one thing the chart does show is certainly variation. And what we at Co-op Funeral Care want to try and do is just to promote that chat that you can have with your loved ones about what actually you would want, so that when it comes to planning the funeral, it's not difficult. All of the decisions are sort of made, and you can really concentrate on grieving. It's an accessible way just to prompt that chat, just to perhaps sit down with a bottle of wine and have a chat one night. I put my list together, and I'm going to need about 3 slots at the crematorium because it's growing and growing and growing. And I go to a funeral like, oh, I like that, and I'll add it to my list. And I look back.
You're going to have an intermission.
Go, oh.
James,
well,
James, you're going to have like an intermission and an ice cream.
I think so.
Some Kia-Ora,
yeah, ice cream, popcorn, and make sure everybody goes for a wee before it starts, because you're in for a long
comfort
haul.
break. We like to call them comfort breaks, James.
In all seriousness, Hannah, was that something
radicals at the Co-op you?
Hannah, in all seriousness, was that a conversation you ever did have with your dad? Did he have any involvement in sort of his send off, so to speak?
He was involved in everything. He lived with us after my mum died. We asked him to come and live with us, so he'd lived with us for nearly 14 years, and there was nothing unspoken, right? He was a very straightforward person. He was the person that you saw as the person that he was. Nothing was in the too difficult box at all. He didn't believe in shying away from it, so we openly talked about it, and he and I had some amazing conversations, and like spine-tingling conversations about what he wanted and where he should be. And so the music that was played, he sat with Benji, his grandson, and Benji had lived with him nearly all his life. They sat together, and he said to Benji, right, I'd like these songs and in this order, please. And that's what he got. It was incredible. I feel so privileged, and I say to everyone, protect yourselves, plan ahead. It's not too difficult. You must plan it. Sit down. I think you'll find if you ask someone, they'll willingly tell you. They might not have thought about it, because it allows you when it comes to that grieving, because we grieved on a global stage. And if we had not planned, if I was worrying about all those details, I would not have been free in my mind for my own mental health to ensure that we were doing by him the right way for his funeral, because all the small things, we've done it.
See, what's interesting, and I think we've had this conversation with some of our guests in the past, is I've got to put it under the heading of superstition. And people think, if I start planning my funeral, discussing, I'm going to drop dead tomorrow. And it's not that at all.
Yeah. He would have said bar humbug.
The more I hear about your father, the more I feel this big. I don't know, Phil's feeling exactly the same. We think, how does one guy encapsulate so much? It is rare, isn't it? It's so rare. Got some really interesting quotes coming up here. This is from David Wimble. And hello to everyone at Deluxe Radio, all 42,000 of you listening right now. I chose my funeral song as I go through the curtain in my life, either by the Beatles or by the Sean Connery poetic version. No, I'd go with the Beatles if I were you. And then Paul Claridge, at my mum's funeral, at her request, the music playing as guests left the chapel was I'm welling up now, I'll Be Home by Pat Boone. It was the first record my dad bought for her.
Oh, flipping heck.
God, now reach the tissues. And then Lisa Janes said, I would have Queen Who Wants to Live Forever. Isn't that good?
Now, there's one of the most sensational songs that I heard was by Jackie Trent, who's possibly more famous for having written theme tunes. I think she wrote the Neighbours theme
with her then husband Tony Hatch.
Yes, exactly, Jackie Trent, and one of the same. And the song that I heard at sort of a funeral of former colleague, friend, whatever you want to call it, was Jackie Trent's song "I'll Be There." Now, if you've ever listened to the lyrics of that, flipping heck, there was not a dry eye in the house. Ugh. Anyway, but it's. I think it's healthy. I know it sounds daft, but I actually think if there is a song that can actually help people express the emotions the way they need to, then it's better than bottling it. The stiff upper lip that we all know and love is not necessarily the best thing for us,
Gosh.
No, I quite agree.
I know you two are packed back to back with interviews today, so busy day for you both. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I don't want to impose too much on your time. Would you come back in the future? If it hasn't been too ghastly an experience for you, would you come back?
Absolutely.
James
no
is
problem
going.
at all.
James is going. I'd rather eat my own face.
No, I've enjoyed it. I really have. I enjoyed shooting the breeze,
I'd be
guys.
delighted to.
He's just thinking to himself, he's listening to My Way at the moment. That's all.
Well, I would love to
Oh,
talk to you more
fantastic.
about how my father looked at life, and some of
Could
he
we do
really
a-
felt emotionally resilient.
Could we do a
I want a whole
special
show
about
on
that?
it.
I would
Thank you.
love to do a special about that, if with your permission. That would be so inspiring and wonderful. That would be
Delighted to.
fabulous.
So
Thank
much.
you
indeed.
so much.
Really, really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
There we go. We've got
Wow.
Hannah Ingram Moore, there, daughter of Captain Sir
Oh,
Tom. So
gosh.
James Murray, funeral director of Co-op Funeral Care. Oh my goodness me!
Why do women do that, by the way? I don't know. I feel like doing it myself.
I don't understand either. Is that someone sort of fanning the tears back into?
I don't know. I think women think that if they do that, it blows the water back into their eye sockets. I don't know. When my wife died, I didn't know what to do. So my dear friends, Teresa Fry and Roland Wells, as everyone was coming in to the chapel, sort of thing, we had very, very cool jazz playing because she was very cool. So we just had this very cool kind of French jazz playing. Can you believe? Sort of like you get on the left bank. And then I've never talked about this before. I didn't know at that time U2 had a new album out. I'm not a U2 fan, but we both really liked "Beautiful Day" by U2, which they released as a single. So as we walked from the chapel out to the actual the cemetery, trying to think of the right word there, we had belting out cranked up to volume 11. "It's a Beautiful Day" by U2 because it was uplifting. There's no, it was so bloody tragic anyway. There was no point in playing tragic music because it was ridiculous. 500 people turned up. We had to have marquees built outside with loudspeakers for everybody else listening to the service. It was completely bonkers. There we are. That's
Problem with being popular, I guess.
Well, she was much loved. David Wimble. But it's an interesting. It was an uplifting moment. Does that sound weird?
No, not at all.
And I thought,
weird at all. I think, like I said, I think that emotions played out properly at funerals are very important, whether that is either allowing people enough time to grieve and to sob, a bit of a flimsy word.
What is this from Wimble? Wimble's getting on my nerves today.
David Wimble, happy birthday to Phil, by the way. Well, thank you. I will take that, but it was 2.5 months ago, but I'm very grateful.
Yeah, well, no one said Wimble was quick.
Nimble Wimble.
No one said he was on the ball. Jesus.
Good to have you back on Men's Radio and your Lux. Thank you, David. And at last, someone to keep a stern lead on the cane.
Okay.
And to be fair, though, I think he's doing all right. So.
And then he goes, "Oi."
I thought that was my name for the first 3 years.
Oi, you. No, I thought your full name was Oi, you.
No, well, Oi, you was the middle name, wasn't it? Oi, you. Anyway. Oh, dear God. Oh, look at. Oh, you see, this is it. We go from funny to like tragic. Chrissy Hope. Oh, my God, Chrissy. Hey, Bob Marley.
What a life you've had.
Yeah, wow.
We played Bob Marley at my son's funeral. You know, Chrissy, you're such a good sport. You've got such a wonderful, positive attitude, and you have endured so much.
Yeah, definitely.
And I always say,
I hope you know it's inspirational, by the way. I
know Chrissy just thinks we take the piss regularly because she is funny. But it is inspirational. Phil and I often say that to each other off air. And the other thing, Chrissy, it goes back to something I truly do believe. It's kind of my life philosophy. It's not about the cards you're dealt, which sometimes are pretty shitty. It's how you play that hand.
Veronica Curran says that I believe it should be a celebration of the person, a young, sadly past, but he was known for Dean Martin pizza pie tears turned to laughter. one would assume that that's a mock-up of the song "That's Amore." But yes,
Well, the moon is as high as a big piece of pie as amore.
yes,
It's
that
the
one.
only time you'll ever hear me sing.
Oh, was that what that was?
Thank God. No, that was me. It sounded like I was being strangled. I can't sing. Can't sing a note. Yeah, it should be a celebration. You know.
Well, it should, and it should. It's tricky, really, because obviously I sort of been brought up, but I'm very, very much brought up with traditions that sort of the Jewish funeral is probably sort of arguably very different to
Just a bit.
to more of a mainstream, but it is a very cleverly thought out process. And even though I know that a lot of people don't understand sort of why it's so regimented, a lot of people struggle to understand why it must be within 24 hours of someone dying that they are actually buried. You know, that a lot of people don't really understand that bit, but it's, without boring you with religious elements, that's a number of reasons, but the main one being is that there's nothing so sacred as a body that has died, as it were. So you don't want to let any damage happen to it, and that's why it has to be buried quite quickly. That's just one of a number of reasons. But you've got the burial within 24 hours. Jewish funerals are also all the same as well, in the sense that there are no flowers. You don't have flowers at a Jewish funeral. You're not supposed to anyway.
Nothing.
And it is completely and utterly plain, just a simple cloth draped over the coffin, and
That's it.
That's kind of all the
And it
decoration.
kind of rolled in on a Costco trolley.
And the
joking.
Yeah, the Sephardi movement, which is another sort of tribe of Jews.
Let's not go down there.
They actually sort of go one step further, where in death we are all the same, in the sense that even the gravestones have to look the same in a Sephardi cemetery. And the reason for it is because we come into the world with nothing, we leave the world with nothing, and that's the idea behind it. It's supposed to be
leaving a load of debt.
Maybe, but you know, if you leave the world with nothing, then technically the debt belongs to someone else, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's my plan.
Oh, there you go. Stephen Marsh has just echoed what I suggested there. Thank you. It's because you come into the world with nothing, you go out with nothing. Absolutely. That's exactly the reason why they are the way they are. And in some weird way, even though a lot of people struggle with it, they don't like the process, it's designed for a very important reason, you know, not only to tell us that we're all equal, really, no matter what our successes and failures were in the world, or the living anyway, but it's also a process that's designed to make it as quick and as painless for those who are left behind as possible. Because it's supposed to be, you get all of the mourning done. Obviously, I know that emotionally this is not true, but the idea behind it is that you're supposed to get all the mourning out of the way within a week. Then you go into a year of mourning, but it's not quite in the same way that others would. It's not a case of every single day is doom and gloom. It's just a sort of a subtle.
Here's the deal, Phil.
Reality.
Here's my philosophy on this. They're not coming back, and you're still here. So you got two choices. You can sit and wallow in this, or you can think, well, they're not coming back. I've got to get on. Chrissy Holt says, well, on a brighter side, this is from Spain, our choir singing, Russell, take two, love, still rolling. Well, on a brighter side, our choir singing is going well. I'm improving, doing a concert in December. Oh, Phil, that's the day we're busy, isn't it?
I want to watch that on Chrissy. In all seriousness, are you streaming it at all? Because I'm just putting it out there. I think it would be quite fun if your men's radio family it. I'm being cool. Curious if it's streamed. We could. Why not? Let's see if we can watch it.
We could do that. How hilarious would that be?
Do you know, Christy's absolutely right as well. She says donations to a cause is better than flowers. Couldn't agree with you more.
Totally so.
The flowers will be, you know, sort of be over and done with in a matter of, well, days. And yet a donation to a charity that meant something to the person who's no longer with us could possibly do a heck of a lot more good. Or,
you know, it can help. It's not just, you're absolutely right. Whatever that might have been, it might have been Alzheimer's, could be cancer. It really doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that donation can help people who are still here. The flowers are there for the mourners. The person who's gone can't see them. Wow. And what have we got here? This is another speech from Paul Clark. You there, Phil? Phil, I can't. Phil,
I'm down here.
I can't. Phil. This must be hilarious on Deluxe Radio. And they're going, what the hell? My friend Miss, would you like to read this, Philip?
Paul says that his friend Michelle runs the charity Dogs on the Streets. Not only do they look after the dogs of the homeless people, they look after the homeless people too. In recent years, Paul says that he has been to 2 homeless guys' funerals with Michelle and many other supporters. And yes, one of them, Going Underground by The Jam, was played out, as it was the man's favourite song.
Isn't that hilarious? It's hilarious, isn't it?
I do have to think that some people, you got to have a sense of humour with
Of course you
something.
have. Of course you bloody have.
I mean, did you ever hear? There was always Spike Milligan, I think it was, who said that he knew exactly what he wanted to have written on his tombstone when he was no longer around.
Yeah.
It was the usual stuff. Here lies Spike Milligan, blah, blah, blah. And underneath, apparently, the quotation, I told you I was ill.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Veronica, yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Veronica, my ones are going to be, there's 2 are going to be. 1, I demand a second opinion. And 2, that's going to be 1. Or 2, it's going to be, now who's the world going to revolve around?
Well, I was going to suggest that the only thing I'd put is, have you got 50 pence for the meter?
That's disgusting. And knowing you'd be there with a laptop, you'd have your little headset in, you'd be working away.
Open everything just in case.
You're going to take your phone with you. I've been at way too many funerals, says Veronica, up in Edinburgh, although not the worst. And pandemic has forced me to protect by not seeing anywhere near enough. Veronica, it's the thought that counts. If people take offense because of COVID that you're not attending stuff, that's on them. It's not on you. I had a pal called Alan Rose, who was a larger than life. You're talking about humor, a larger than life character. An extraordinary guy came into the room, just took the room over. I mean, he was exhausting. He was golden hearted, very generous. He was very loud and just physically big and a big personality. Out of the blue, he drops dead. Very few years ago. On the Wednesday is with our mutual friend John Altman, the wonderful musician, buying a cello or a bass from him, I think he was. Goes home, he just drops dead. On the Thursday, it was so sudden. No one could believe it. Absolutely no one, because he was such a big part of. If you knew him, he was just. If you had 4 of you went out for lunch, it was Alan. It was the Alan show. I mean, anyway, at the funeral. I'm there with Larry Viner, because Larry was very close with Alan, much closer than I was. I'm not sure if Beanie was there, can't remember. And because we're all friends. But Larry was a much bigger friend with Alan Rose than I was. And a guy comes up and he goes, Larry, did you do it? I'm standing there. We're in the car park area. And he goes, what? I said, did you do it? And Larry says, do what? What we agreed. What they'd agreed was this guy, plus Larry Viner, plus Alan Rose, had decided that whoever died first, they would put their mobile phone with them secretly in the coffin. And as the coffin was being lowered into the ground, they dialed a number. It would start ringing. Because they all had the most, and still do, the most wicked sense of humour, and mercilessly took the you-know-what out of each other. It's just a wonderful image of the phones going.
Do you know there was
the coffin goes
clip? There's a great clip going around as well. It's not where
naughty.
Who was he knew he was towards the end of his life, and he got his family and or friends to record this message from him, basically sounding like he was in a coffin, but over a speaker.
I hate that. It's too much for me.
Hello, is anyone out there? And although you can understand there was humor behind it, I have to say that if I was in a situation where I would have known that person and heard that, it would have been frightfully creepy. And it also has to be said as well, by the way, that it is extraordinarily bizarre that today of all days we are talking about this, because my family and I we are attending a Zoom funeral later this evening of a cousin of mine who's in America. So it seems most appropriate that we are talking about this of all days. So there you go.
An interesting point from Paul Claridge. Does anyone else find it interesting and somewhat relaxing to walk through a cemetery and read the headstones? Not at midnight, unless you're an extra in Midsummer Murders. To be honest with you, Paul, or in a 1965 Hammer horror film. But
no, not in the middle of the night, Paul. But I have to say, I completely agree with you. It's one of the honestly, I do not know what it is, but cemeteries are really tranquil places, and I don't know why. Because
you do know why. I think you do know why.
Well, no, but you're not supposed to take. I don't know. I suppose you're supposed to take comfort from being able to visit the resting place.
What else is the point? What else is the point of having cemeteries then? But the person's gone.
Yeah, I know, but not. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It is comforting. It's a really complicated. It's a real.
Oh God!
This is from my cousin.
Are you going to get through this? I thought not. Francine Warner says one of Michael's, that's her husband's, and obviously Russell, one of Michael's cousins fell into an open grave while the person who had passed was being buried. Was shouting, "Get me out of here!" They all thought that was the person in the grave was still alive. Oh, gracious me!
Only Michael's family.
That is quite.
Oh my God!
Crumbs.
That is one of the things I do in my stand-up is I tell the true story, because you've got to, the person's gone, but if they had a big sense of humor or were funny in life, they'd get it. They'd get it, everybody. And so when my mum died, I think I may have told the story before. My mum died. It's a
Stephen, you're gross. Stop it.
Yes, go and do some tax accounts quickly, Stephen.
Oh my God! He says that story has a great plot to it. Very good.
So my mum's just been lowered, and I put the first spade full of earth onto the coffin lid, and then Lloyd, Beanie, my best friend, as a great honor, takes the spade to do the next spadeful of earth. It's an honor. I'm walking away, and I hear a crash. And I thought in my head, I was thinking in my head, oh, for F's sake, you have to be kidding me. Apparently, I said it out loud. Probably not the best thing to say at a funeral. I thought I was thinking it. Lloyd's wife then comes by and goes, shakes her head and goes, I'm just so proud, and walks off trying to hide. What had happened? Lloyd, in his enthusiasm, had thrown the spade and the earth, and the whole thing landed right on top of my mum, right? Bang, with a huge crash. So even so he's covered with embarrassment. So I thought, oh God, I'm like laughing, because mum would have found it very funny. She would have thought it was hilarious. So because she hated stuff like that. So I thought I better try and reduce his embarrassment. And I thought, I can't believe this. Even at my mum's funeral, one of the most solemn moments of my life, I've got to act and try and make light of things, which is quite a stretch. But anyway, I went up to the officiating officers, who were very somber, and I said, well, I bet that must happen all the time. And he looked at me and he said, I've been here 37 years. That's the first time that's ever happened.
By the way,
I had nowhere to go with that.
That's just that chap who said he's been there 37 years. Yeah. He has, make no mistake, he's been every single, to anyone who goes to, who's unfortunate enough to have to go to a funeral at Bushy, you will know exactly the person we're talking about, because he always walks around in a top hat. He's got a sort of short black greyish beard going on. And yes, indeed, he has been there for decades. And that's quite an accolade to say that's never happened before.
Can you believe it? And the next day, I thought Beanie would leave it. No. Next day, he has a T-shirt made with "What's the worst that could happen?" which is our catchphrase for the three of us. What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? With just a picture of a huge spade on the front of his T-shirt. Stephen Marsh. Are you ready for this? Is his beard bushy? Stephen, I swear to God, Now, Luke Newman, who's being very nice here. Luke, how are you doing, fella? Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday, midweek. Check-in answers. How are you? How are you? And then again, how are you? Not bad. Pretty good. Pretty good. This is beard bushy. Jeez. It's the thing about it is, look, and there was an interesting point. Where was it? Where did it go? What have we got? We got Wimble coming back. I actually love a funeral for all the right reasons. It is a full celebration of life. I dread my parents' funeral. Yeah, it's not fun, David. I can assure you, I've been there twice. But as they say, there are only two things in life that are certain: taxes and death. And Stephen Marsh can deal with the first one for you, being an accountant. And the reason you find it peaceful, says Chrissy Holt, is the spirits are at peace. That's why. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. You know, it's the reason that there's cemeteries is so that you, I suppose, can show that person respect, and you can go there. It's like, otherwise, where do you go? They've just gone. I suppose that's what it is. It gives you a sort of an anchor, gives you an epicenter. I know I talk about this a lot with my cousin Francine, who goes to visit. You know, her mum, my lovely Auntie Sylvia, her sister Auntie Teresa, and then they go and visit my parents, which is very sweet of them because they live a heck of a lot nearer than I do. It's very nice of them, and they like that. It gives them a sense of comfort. It gives you a sense of continuity, I think. Maybe that, I don't know. You could write theses about this, couldn't you? You could write a massive PhD on the subject. Luke Newman says, I've said speeches at many funerals for my mum, Nan, and oh God, and your sister. Luke, I'm so sorry. I find it an honor to do so. Yeah. Tough. Here we go. Back to Francine. Would you like to read this, Philip?
Francine says that when her mother had passed away, her biggest fear was being buried alive. I think we can all relate to that. Goodness me. She said, because as that's what I was saying about the 24-hour thing, as one of the another reason why a lot of people don't care very much for the rule of 24 hours. But anyway, Fran goes on to say that, so I believed she was still breathing, goodness. And she says that she got two opinions from the doctors. She said her mother would have been laughing.
Let me tell you, Francine, I am not breathing. Sammy, am I breathing? No, Sammy. Don't, you're not breathing. Bring any food. And that would be it. Okay, now we've got this. Oh, she was fantastic. My Auntie Sylvia, she was my second mum. If I didn't have her as a mum, I would have had her. Lovely Anna Webb what's this? Could you read this? My throat's
yes, Anna Webb had a full funeral for her beloved dog, Molly, years ago. It was in the back garden of her old cottage, and the local vicar presided over the ceremony and played the guitar too. Gracious. You know, I could well believe that. But actually, that's funnily enough, that's one thing I've never really understood is, and I know they do exist. I think they're slightly more popular in America than they are here, but the whole concept of pet cemeteries.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Put a plant in garden, no garden pot. You can be there all time. Write, Chrissy, you don't spell right like that. Write a letter, burn it, and toss it in the air. Set fire to your own hair. Set fire to your garden and burn down your neighbour's house all at the same time. Jesus. I made that last bit up. What do we got here? Luke Newman. I had
a funeral for my goldfish. I was 5 at the time. Well, Luke, I think that's admirable.
Oh, it's sweet.
So, dare I ask what the name of the dearly departed fish was? But and also
fish.
It's called fish. Oh, sorry. Okay.
I don't know. It's called goldfish. I'm getting a slight echo here. Don't know. We had a wedding. Oh, crumb! What? Weirder by the day.
Dogs, they loved it. My Snoopy has a proper grave in the garden. Well, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Gracious.
Okay.
Luke Newman, the goldfish's name, Sharky. Anyway.
I like that. Luke, thinking big at the age of 5. I got a goldfish. What shall I call it? Sharky. Yeah, we're gonna need a bigger bowl. No,
I do think that there is. One shouldn't underestimate, even though sort of I know that some people can laugh at the concept of funerals for pets. But
no, I don't.
The reason for funerals, of course, is, amongst other things, is closure. It's such a cliche word. I hate it, but you know what I mean. It is. It's
but it's the word that describes it. What are you supposed to do?
I was going to say, you can't really say anything else. Well, it's I suppose it's the final chapter, isn't it? It's this sort of the last moments, whatever you want to refer to it as. But anyway, foreclosure. And I guess that if people are as attached to pets as I know, for example, I am to mine and have been to mine, one of the honest to
Never
God.
seen you wear the T-shirt that I had made for you in America. Not once.
Well, I don't wear T-shirts. Excuse
So
me.
why did I go and get it for you?
I have absolutely no idea, but I'm very grateful all the same.
No, you're not. You
very safe.
Sneer at my gift.
I would suggest, though, that sort of I know that sort of one of the worst days.
Stephen Marsh, I swear to God, I'm going to drive out to Essex and just slap you.
Shouldn't make jokes about funeral. It's a grave matter. Well, I mean, it's true, Stephen. And the worst thing for any comedian who makes jokes about funerals could do is die on stage. But what I would suggest, though, is that sort of it was actually when one of our cats died. And honest to God, it took me about 3 days to stop sobbing my eyes out. It was absolutely extraordinary how traumatized I was when the cat died.
Well, I am Ebony, who's the closest person to me on the planet. She's my mini schnauzer. She's 12 now, going to be 13 next year. And I'm like, I watch her like a hawk. I really do. And when she goes, I will be in bits. I will be absolutely a deconstructed mess. Boy, you're all coming out today, isn't it? Is it Christmas Cracker Day?
No, but I wouldn't say Luke Newman. So I get this. He just says, I know he's joking. I wanted to be an undertaker, but it was a dead end job. It's got to be said, you've got to be fairly brave to be an undertaker because you wouldn't get much recurring business, would you? Really?
Well, you'd hope not. In one way. That's my joy. I'm back again. I'd like to be reburied. We have an appointment in Sumatra.
Actually, I'd like to know whether or not anyone's ever complained to the funeral director that you didn't bury it properly. Do it again. It's not quite the same as going back to M&S with a bag of grapes. Yeah. So, sorry.
That would just be terrible.
So sorry. I came in here yesterday. At a funeral. Well, you were very helpful at the time, but I'm afraid that I wasn't terribly happy with the way that you did this. I'm really sorry, but either I want my money back or I'd like a replacement. You want a replacement funeral? How does that work?
Can you imagine? That would be just the most worst sketch, but it would be so British. Oh, I'm very sorry. I realise you have returned from the dead, but you don't have a receipt. Well, it burnt. I went to hell and it burnt up. Well, I'm very sorry. So we have a very strict policy here at funerals for you, whatever. One of the things I don't like when I'm watching telly, right, is it comes up and I really do object to this, actually. I'm sitting there and goes, why not make life simple for your loved ones and have a cremation? And I'm sitting there watching a flick or watching something, whatever, and I'm going like, no, sorry. Number one, I want as much fuss as possible. Right? Totally. You know what my daughter said? Daughter said to the family, she said, could everyone stop worrying about dad during COVID? COVID is not going to get him. So everyone's at all the kids said, why? And he said, and Lauren said, my daughter, because if you think he's going to have a funeral and we can't attend and make a hoopla and 3-ring circus out of it, he would refuse to die. She knows me far too well. Got to be honest.
I think the only reason you'd be cremated is just have your ashes scattered in an ashtray for a cigar.
I'd have it spread around the Soho Whiskey Club and Souters. Probably that would be. That would be it. Probably. Oh, and Bar Italia, a little bit in Bar Italia, a little bit in Souters in Mount Street, and a little bit in the Soho Whiskey Club. Probably be do me, wouldn't it?
Perfect.
Be all right. And just a little bit outside the Porsche showroom, saying, I'm still looking through the window. That would be it.
Yeah.
That would be it. I don't fear it. I don't fear it. I don't fear it. See, it's very different.
Owning a Porsche has gone up in smoke. One of the two.
Ridiculous. I don't fear it. I'm okay with it. I don't want to, you know, I'd rather just go. I don't, but I just got a lot of stuff that I want to do. So I'm not in a rush. You're 35. You've got your whole life ahead of you. The difference.
I hate it when people say that.
But it's true. Please God, you do. Please God, you do.
No, it is.
I don't. I'm very aware. I hear the ticking clock, which is why I run around all the time, trying to enjoy myself, make the most of it, and do the things creatively, intellectually that I want to do. This is nice. I want to be scattered on the sea.
Well,
Good for you, Chrissy Holt. Why not? Lovely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Why not?
Some poor fish comes along and eats it thinking it's fish food.
Well, but then it's all going round in the circle of life.
Yes. You know, there's nothing quite like losing. And there you go. There's nothing quite like losing a friend. So this chap who I knew was 2 years younger than I am now when he died. He was older than me, but he's 2 years younger than I am now when he died. So he was 33 when he died. And I think I was about 31 at the time. And there's nothing quite like it. It's nothing like that as a wake-up call to make you think,
it's a shocker. It's
that was
a
blooming
utter shocker.
And honestly, this chap, he was properly unwell for an awful lot of his life. You know, anything from born with cystic fibrosis, needed a lung transplant in his lifetime, needed a liver transplant in his lifetime. And wouldn't you flipping well know it, it was actually the lung transplant indirectly that in the end killed him, because unfortunately, part of the rejection of the lungs was that he developed lung cancer. So it's pretty grim.
The world of comedy was shocked. Certainly, the world of cruising comedy, etc. It wasn't mainstream like TV. Young guy called Phil Butler. I was introduced to him once. Everyone thought he was my friend. I didn't know him personally. I met him once. He was absolutely charming, hugely popular, very successful on the cruise circuit, which is gigantic, by the way, and loved in Variety. He's on a cruise this week, dies in his sleep, just drops dead. And people, many of our listeners and viewers knew him. I'm not pretending. I never get on the grief wagon. It's not what I do. But he was very, very popular. People liked him a lot. And Phil Butler just died. No one can get over it. And as David Wimple says, Phil went so suddenly and shocked everyone. Awful.
You know, though, I do believe
pouring. I've got to go to Soho. I got to go to Soho in 8 minutes. It is torrential rain. Phil, sort it out. I'm going to get soaked.
I'll have a words. I would suggest though that actually it does. I think if someone has to, look, we will have to go at some stage, but if one has to go, there's no doubt, and I dare say that RK, you know this more than anyone. The only way to do it is to be quick and painless and not drawn out.
Yeah, I'd rather get hit by a bus today than get some ghastly illness and be a horrible burden to the family and the kids, and just think, what the hell's all this about?
Ramsey away.
Yeah, Ramsey is on the money. You should live each day as it's your last, because one day you will be right. Yeah, the Phil Butler thing was very sad. Here we go, David Wimble. This is an interesting thing. I've got the wrong one here. God, where are we? Where's he gone? Oh, here we are. David, whilst serving 30 years as a royal, it's the lifeboat man on the lifeboats. What was RN? Royal? What does that stand for?
Royal National Lifeboat Institute, isn't it?
I think so. Anyway, for 30 years, David Wimble, although we take the mickey out of him, but he's a lovely man, was a helmsman. We used regularly to spread the ashes of people at sea. I always found it a great honour to read a service just for the three of us on the boat, knowing that family were watching from the shore. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Wow.
That's a beautiful thing,
Goodness,
Wimble.
never knew you did that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sure enough, I've just confirmed it is indeed Raw National Lifeboat Institution. There you go. Thank goodness for that. I do listen sometimes. Stephen Marsh says, "You reached heaven."
Sorry.
Full clarity. Sorry. In recent years, I've been to a number of humanist funerals. You're starting to lose me, if I'm honest. I actually find them better and more honest than religious funerals. First one was for a lady called Julie. Oh, wow, that's so ironic. That was my cousin whose funeral is this evening.
There you go. It's all linked together.
And her dogs, all rescues from Hungary. Gracious me, hang on a sec. What? He was buried with the dogs at the same time? What happened? Did the vet put them down?
No, you're misreading it. I thought that's what it said when I first scanned this. The dogs were the pallbearers.
Oh, I see. Oh, sorry. Okay,
no, I misunderstood. I thought, oh, Christ, I've had the dogs put down and buried with her.
Gosh, that's unbelievable. Yeah, sorry, you're quite right. So first one was for a lady called Julie, and her dogs, all rescues from Hungary, were the lead pallbearers. Sorry.
You see what you did there? Lead.
Yeah, it sounds odd, but it was very moving as they refused to leave the side of the coffin throughout.
Well, dogs know.
Oi.
Dogs know. Dogs know when you're ill. Stephen Marsh says, when you reach a certain age, say 50 or 60, I've got so long, they say you should live each day as this. Your last serious question, what do folk think about this? There has to be a balance between enjoying yourself as you don't know what's around the corner and acting responsibly, working, providing for your family, etc.
Stephen, I think that's the first serious point I've ever heard you make, and I actually couldn't agree with you more. That's such a really valid point because, yes, it is true. And this is why I really struggle when there are a lot of people who have the mindset as that when they're quite generous and lavish with money, right? And their theory is, oh, well, you can't take it with you. No, you're right. You can't take it with you, but you've got to get to that stage is the truth of it. And I'm afraid that if you are going to sort of blow whatever money you got to the point where actually you start sort of maybe having to not so much neglect, as it were, but your later life care potentially might suffer as a result of it. It is completely irresponsible. Of course it is. But as you rightly say, how will you know?
I'm with Ramsey on this. My kids get annoyed every time I say I'm finally buying that AMG, which is the race version of the Mercedes. That's our inheritance, they shout. Screw them, Ramsey. Good for you. Get the AMG, 6 litre. And drive around to Greta Thunberg's house and rev the engine a few times.
Nice to know you're so valued, Ramsey, isn't it?
What? AMG must. They sound. What? 6.3. They're completely pointless. But so much of life is. They're completely pointless, but they sound fantastic. 6.3 litre V8. With 4 pipes coming out the back. Fantastic. Utterly useless. You get just as fast on a bicycle, but how you get there. God, I can't believe the weather. I've got a meeting which I have to attend in Soho, and about my next book, and it's like a deluge out there, like a deluge. I could melt. I could be like the witch in the end of Wizard of Oz. I'm melting. All right, that was my Wizard of Oz reference. What do you want me to do now?
Well, I don't know. I think you might have peaked too early, to be honest.
I think I peaked. I know. I've got my last Zoom call with New York at 9 o'clock tonight. I've got a long way to go yet. They are sweet 19 miles per gallon, though. Well, so what? I don't go anywhere, so I could just enjoy the noise. I only go to town and back. Who cares?
A good thing at 19 miles per gallon. Jeeps.
I know. Oh, God. Claridge is in. The sun is shining in Croydon.
It's blue sky and bushy.
Are you kidding me? It's I'm joking aside. I turned around. The rain noise was so. Oh, you know what? Does your literary agent make advances at you?
Good gracious.
Stephen Marsh. When you meet Stephen, I've met him once, and we met for a cup of coffee. He was the most charming, quietly spoken, modestly quiet man you could imagine. He goes absolutely potty. I love it. It's so interesting.
We are the catalyst. We're a vent for Stephen to get out all of his built-up energy from clearly being far too polite and softly spoken in real life.
What have we got? Blue skies in Bushy. That'll be the police cars.
I'll have you know, Ramsay, that Bushy is a very respectable neighbourhood. Thank you.
We're not too far from
Primarily-
B&K, man. And
Primarily,
B&K,
primarily because everyone's too old to realise they've been burped.
what do they know? Where's the television? Did we have a television? I don't know. Oh, never mind.
Yesterday, but anyway.
Let's listen to Mrs. Dale's diary on the Light programme. Anyway, it's been a hell of a show. Such an honour to have the daughter of Captain Sir Tom Moore. What an honour that was.
Absolutely.
And we will be back on Friday.
Indeed. See you then. Bye-bye. Keep well.